Well, thank you so much. And firstly, thank you for prioritizing your time and your well-being and joining us for this wonderful session today, where we're going to take 45 minutes or so just to focus on neurodiversity at work and thinking differently for a thriving workplace. My name is Grant Payne. I'm the Lead Wellbeing Coach here at 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗶𝗃, where we have a wonderful vision to empower as many people as possible to live their very best life, for you to live your very best life for the longest. And I'm dead excited and dead thrilled today to welcome our wonderful guest speaker, Rich Ferriman. Rich, are you there? Do you want to just pop on your... There you go. How are you, Rich?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Very well, thanks. Very well. Now, I'm dead excited to get to work with you again, Rich. Rich was very kind and did a wonderful session for our Recalibrate Wellbeing Ambassadors a month or two ago, and got some brilliant feedback. It was a wonderful session. So I thought, do you know what? Let's get Rich on board, and hopefully he'll agree to kind of share some of his wisdom with you guys. So thank you, Rich, for doing that. And Rich is like one of those passionate people. He's a wonderful advocate for neurodiversity and its immense value in the working world. And you're a qualified neurodiversity at work trainer, aren't you, Rich? And you offer valuable insights, and I'm just double checking that I'm getting this right, that valuable insights for business that are looking to really support neurodivergent employees and unlock their full potential of neurodiverse kind of workforce and bring about that understanding and build a more understanding and welcoming culture through neurodiversity, which is great. And I can't wait to listen to you again. It was really exciting the last time we did it, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly. So so just before I hand over to Rich, who's going to deliver the session today, I'm just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping and invite you all here that are joining. And again, thank you for sharing your wonderful time and well-being for this session today. Invite you to interact as much as you possibly can today. Utilize that chat function to share your thoughts, your ideas, your reflections, even some of your experiences. I know that that Rich might pitch a question or two and ask for feedback or ask for some experience. So please feel free to share that reflection in that chat function if you want to. If you want your answers only to be seen by myself and Rich, just make sure that drop down reads to panelists and hosts only. If you want your answers to be shared with everybody else, just ensure it reads to everyone, and we can create that little reflective community in there, which is lovely for everyone to see. If you have a specific question for Rich, make sure you utilize that Q&A tab. Drop that question in there, and we'll hopefully find time to answer those questions. If we can't find time, we'll certainly get back to you with regards to some sort of answer to your question. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that Q&A tab, Rich, and if there's questions that pop in at any time, perhaps I'll just jump in and see how we go. Is there anything else you want to add, Rich, before you start?
No. Should we get on with it?
There we go. Fab. There we go. Fabulous. Rich, I'll hand over to you to do your thing. I'm in the background. Just to remind everybody, this session is being recorded, and it's about 45 minutes long or so, and you'll be able to access this as a recording via our Wellbeing People YouTube channel in a few days and things like that. So, so thanks again, Rich. I'll hand over to you and keep myself out of the way.
Wonderful. Right, I'm going to share a screen. So just tell me that we're good for that, Grant, and we're there. Right, brilliant, excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope we're all well. It's been an interesting morning here. Power cut, I'm running to somewhere else to do this, and then power's coming back on again. So yeah, we're now settled, we're now ready. So we're going to go into this for the next 45 minutes or so. So here we go. But as Grant says, you know, do please ask questions, connect, let's talk, let's have a great conversation. So the agenda, a very quick one on me, and I'll do that in a minute. Then we're going to go right back to brass tacks. What is neurodiversity? We're going to start thinking about some questions. Did you know some stuff? We're going to look at the most prevalent conditions, which autism, ADHD, and dyslexia. And we're going to have a bit of fun. I'm going to put you into a quite interesting position in a while. So have a piece of paper and a pen ready to do that. And if you're watching this on a catch-up on a recording, still go for it and do it and see how you get on. We're going to talk about some reasonable adjustments. We're going to think about creating a neuro-inclusive workplace. And we're going to do a call to action. There's a lot of information. Sometimes I'll talk too fast or not. So Grant's going to just slow me down. But that is my neurodivergency, so forgive me for that. The biggest thing about neurodivergency, the biggest thing about doing training like this, the biggest thing about engaging like this is just to think of it as the smallest of changes can make the biggest of impacts for people around you, for colleagues, for family members, for really anyone that is neurodivergent. And also, you know, this is about giving you that oxygen, you that information so that you can take it forward. So very much like, you know, give yourself the oxygen on the plane, not when it's going down, we don't do all that, but when it's going through a bit of turbulence, think about it, and then you look after yourself first, and then you are in a position to help everybody else. So who am I? I'm ADHD autistic. I'm 50 years of neurodiversity experience. Not that I knew for 47 of those. For 47 of those, I honestly believed something was a bit off. I was challenged by different things. I found social situations difficult. I used to get anxiety when I walked into a meeting. I've been in the corporate for 30 years and used to miss my train so that actually I wouldn't have to go and shake everybody's hands in those big meetings and make small talk and have to look at everybody, because actually for me, I just thought I was a bit off, a bit strange, a bit weird maybe. But actually, slowly but surely through my own experience, my lived experience, and that of my family, we started to explore and understand actually really clearly how those challenges within our life could be overcome and how to maximize our strengths. And that's everything I talk about. With every single bone in my body, we know that neurodiversity comes with challenges. And being a neurodivergent individual does have its challenges, but you know what? There are some incredible strengths. But we've got to be in neuro-inclusive environments in order to maximize those strengths and not to feel that we're always being assessed and looked at for our challenges, which is not the right way to go. I was an executive partner at IBM till last year. I built a couple of businesses in my time. Somebody, I think my wife once called me a top global neurodiversity voice. I'm keeping. And I'm married with 4 kids. 3 of those are neurodiverse. One of them has Tourette's, has autism, has ADHD, PTSD, behavioural issues. He's survived cancer. He's done the whole lot as our George. But the thing with George is at 11 years old, he does the Rubik's Cube in 15 seconds. He can't hardly read and he can't hardly write, but he can do the Rubik's Cube in 15 seconds. And he's taking that and now taking the algorithms from doing that and making sure that now he teaches himself the electric guitar. Because what we do is we make sure that we evaluate him on his strengths, that we push his strengths, that we give him the time and the space to face strengths. And that is the most incredible part of us as a neurodivergent family. Okay, what is this stuff? What is it? So I read some things so that I've got the information for you, but neurodiversity is a concept that recognises and respects the natural variations in human brain function and behaviour. The first big thing you need to know is I am neurodivergent. I am ADHD. I am autistic. I didn't get it in the water. I didn't get it from a vaccine. I didn't get it here. I didn't get it there. This is who I am. I've always been like this since I was born. And that is key, because actually my normal is my normal. Your normal is your normal. It just so happens that society has dictated that the normal is in a brain type called neurotypical as opposed to. So there are conditions that we'll talk about: dyslexia, ADHD, and dyslexia, ADHD, and autism that we're going to talk about in a bit more time in a minute. But you know, there are also dyscalculia, which is just a brilliant one. But dyscalculia, and this is where numbers can be difficult to recognize, to understand, to see a spreadsheet or to see time or to see a calculator or anywhere where we use numbers, which is every single day. And this can be very much about the number not forming correctly. We're not seeing it correctly, jumping up and down in front of our eyes. And actually this has nothing, like with dyslexia, this has nothing to do with intellect, nothing to do with that you're clever or not clever. This is a a neurobiological condition that actually means that when I see a number, it doesn't form in the way that maybe you as a neurotypical or you without dyslexia. We have dyspraxia, which is often seen as a difficulty with, and again, this is a neurological condition which may not for the fine motor skills or major motor skills, which may find it difficult to ride a bike or to hold a pen or to actually type on a keyboard. This is you know, for many people can be really difficult just on daily life as far as physical movements, etc. We also look at Tourette's syndrome. Tourette's is in two parts. Tourette's can be jerks and tics, physical jerks, physical tics. And actually, we then have a second part to that called coprolalia, and this is where it may be involuntary words, involuntary swear words is often been the way that it's been dictated down the years. But actually, that's just 20% of the people with Tourette's have coprolalia. But it does affect people. You know, for you now watching, I want you just to open your eyes as wide as you can open your eyes and just don't blink and don't blink, don't blink. Whatever you do, don't blink. Don't blink. You can't blink. Don't blink. Don't blink. You blink. That feeling, that need to blink, that's what it feels like to have Tourette's. That involuntary movement within your body that you can't stop it. You cannot stop yourself from blinking. And actually, that is what happens to many people who do have Tourette's. And that speech, that vocal, which can be often quite rude or inappropriate, isn't manifested, isn't thought about. It just literally comes out. A person with Tourette's is as surprised at what's coming out as you are next to them. So we always have to think what people are going through, how they are managing their neurodiversities through. So by understanding neurodiversity, we can then acknowledge that people experience or interact with the world in different ways. Okay. Now, world population prevalence. This is always an interesting stat which people think about, is the fact of world population prevalence, neurodiverse conditions estimated to be 20%. That's 1 in 5 of us, 1 in 5 of your friends, 1 in 5 of your colleagues, 1 in 5 of those that you went to school with, 1 in 5 of everybody has a neurodivergent condition. Some people will mask a lot more than others. Some people may not know. 85% of people don't know they have a neurodiverse condition, much like I didn't until I was 47 years old. And this actually can be, for many people, something that, you know, is a surprise, something that actually I knew there was something a bit off, but I never wanted to say anything. I never felt I could say anything. I never wanted to be subjected to bias and stigma that we all are so often if we are perceived as different. Having more than one condition is called comorbidity or co-occurring. There's something that's just dropped in the chat. Thank you, Sophie. I don't think mental health is considered neurodiversity. Could you elaborate on how you've included it in the graph? So what we talk about when we talk about neurodiversity is your brain type. And as far as that, what we see from a mental health position is that if schizophrenia or bipolar, because they are often lifelong conditions that affect the whole makeup and chemical makeup of the brain, they affect that person's life, and it is a continuous effect over their lifetime. That's often considered as neurodiversity. That's often considered as a neurodiverse condition. If we go into depression, if we have bouts of that, often what we see is that we can come in and we go out of that. So that is not considered to be a neurodivergent condition. But when it is lifelong, often that is. We also see that acquired neurodiversity, stroke, acquired brain injury, etc., because it forever changes the way that your brain operates and works. That can often be seen as a neurodivergent condition. So for that is the only one you can acquire, but it's a dramatic require that really does change your brain forever. Certainly happy to go into that in more detail. Somebody's put ASD lifelong. Yes, but if you want to elaborate on that, I can absolutely have a chat. So terminology, neurodiversity, the concept that neurological differences are natural and neurodiverse. We are a group of neurodiverse. So everybody on this call, somebody's lost sound. Can everybody else hear me? Yeah, great. A group of both neurodivergent and neurotypical people. So we are a neurodiverse group. Neurodivergent, someone whose brain performs differently. And this is really important. Somebody whose brain performs differently to what society considers the norm. What society considers the norm. Neurotypical, someone whose brain functions in a way expected by society. That is the difference. And we are set up for a neurotypical brain type. And actually, this is why at times, if you go into an interview, you sit down with someone, they don't look at you, they don't engage in the right way, or somebody doesn't like loud sounds or bright lighting, or is susceptible to sensory sensitivities, or has issues from an emotional regulation point of view. We hear about meltdowns. Very often, that is not the way society expects us to be. So, you know, that is where these differences come. So did you know, I've gone over a couple of these, 85% of people with neurodiverse conditions don't know they are neurodivergent. So I said this just a while ago, but 85%. They may know what ADHD is, they may know what autism is, but actually they don't know that is who they are. And this is why there is such an upsurge in people being diagnosed, people understanding, people recognizing neurodiverse traits in them or their family members or their friends. And the reason for that is because we're talking about it, because we are starting to give information to people. It was only when I was going through the multiple meetings that we did because of my son's different conditions, etc. And it was only really there because we spent so long in hospital with him that actually they were saying to me, Mr. Ferriman, I think you might just need to go and have getting a diagnosis because we think you are very much like George. And that is, we've proven that neurodiversity does go through families. Neurodiversity is generational. Neurodiversity does follow a pattern. Absolutely, that does happen. 72% of people who are autistic are unemployed. 72%. It's ridiculous. But we know some of the reasons why. Some of the reasons are that first interview. Some of the reasons are getting through the door. Some of the reasons are looking at a job description and going, well, I can do that, but I can't do that, I can't do that, and I'm not going to go for something if I don't feel I can do those. Where often the job is that. Where often the job is what it is, but our own bias will say, oh, well, I can't put that job description. Oh, that's just boring. I wouldn't want to do this. It's repetitive. It's this, it's that. Let's just flower it up on each side. Where actually we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. We can actually say this is what it is. And when somebody comes into an interview, that bias kicks in again. Well, you didn't shake my hand very well. It's a bit like a wet lettuce. You didn't do this. You didn't have eye contact. And your answers were very strong. So much that we can do, that we can help others. And see, yes, these are global figures, but they translate very well into the UK. Okay, where are we? 28% of companies who champion inclusion can benefit from higher revenues. They double their net income, 30% higher profit margins. And that's a big claim. It's a huge claim. And I know people on there, these are publicly available stats. But what we talk about here is actually we think about dynamics within teams. We go out and we hire people, and we go out and hire who we need, and we go and hire them to a job, as opposed to thinking about the cohesion across teams. What are our challenges within teams? What are our strengths within teams? How do we evaluate people? How do we bring the right strength or challenge into a team to bring us back? And actually by doing that, by putting brain types together, by putting that neurotypical brain and then a neurodiverse brain, which maybe, is thinking outside the box, which is considering how innovative they can be. 60% of founders we assess are ADHD, because it's all about that impulsive thinking, that risk taking, that finding other ways, problem solving, that neurodivergent people are so good at. And the final one, just to reiterate, 20% of the world's population are neurodiverse. It's an interesting one when people say, oh, we're all a bit on the spectrum. We work around looking at spiky profiles. We look at, when someone has a spiky profile, it means that actually we look at the different tasks that we look at emotional regulation, we look at special interests, we look at, the way that they have eye contact, we look at the way that aggression, depression, we look at multiple different factors. And then we look at that and see where the differences are. The middle line there is often what we see from a neurotypical brain. What we then see from a neurodivergent brain is it can be very high, very high as far as maybe emotional deregulation or special interests, which is a great one. It could be that, I just can't do eye contact, or I just don't like people touching me, or I just don't want to be in very loud environments. And that on its own shows that actually there is a control part here. And I often, when people ask me what it's like, I often find that I'm not in control of the things that happen to me. I'm not in control of the aspects of my life that I want to be in control of. Where when I talk to friends who are neurotypical, often they can see it in a meeting. Oh, this is getting a bit loud, a bit this. I'll just calm it down. I'll retract. Actually, there's been too many times when I just keep going and I go into this meltdown zone where actually I can't stop. And my brain is almost to a point where I have to do this. Think about it in a supermarket. Aisle 1, you've got a child there, neurotypical, who's having a tantrum. And the parents there, well, it's be all right. No, you're not having the sweets. No, you're not having the sweets. I want the sweets. No, you're not having the sweets. And actually, it's more of a, oh, are you done? The next style is a neurodivergent child, maybe an autistic child who's having a meltdown. Now, it could have been the same issue. They wanted some sweets, or they wanted this, or they wanted that. The problem at that point, that parent is no longer just looking at the watch. That parent is now in a point of stress. They're in a point of worry. They're in a point of fear, because that child is no longer in control of what's going on. They're smashing on the floor. They may be hurting themselves, kicking, punching. They may be doing these things, which actually is a out of control mechanism. We deal with it in our own house. And it is a really tough situation to be in. And we've got to help that child come back. We've got to help that adult. We've got to help that person in our office to come back to where they are. And often that is by us talking in a very non-judgmental, actually being an anchor for that person to come back to, so that they can talk to us with our arms. We don't touch them, we don't hug them, we talk. And actually our voice becomes an anchor from that meltdown. And that is one of the areas that we can really help as allies and really help. And if you do see that parent in the supermarket, say it's okay. Just give them a smile, say you're all right. Don't go up to them and say, sort out your acting, kid. That's happened to me way too many times. Anyway, so what we've got to think though is that ups and downs, but people can be challenged to an extreme in one, but absolutely to a fantastic in the other. To mathematicians, to Rubik's cubers in 15 seconds like George. These absolute brilliance that comes out, but often it is shrouded by those challenges, and they're the issues that many people in the workplace, many people see is challenges, and they evaluate on challenges, not on strengths. And no 2 days are the same. As no 2 days are the same, no two people are the same. You may display certain behaviors on one day and they're just not evident the next, but they may be down the line. Often it's not just now, it's not just at that point. It could be actually from way back. It could be something that started way back in the morning that's now manifesting all the way through. We need to be understood and clear. Okay. So autism is a developmental condition that can affect communication behavior, and social interaction. We call it a spectrum because it manifests in a wide range of ways and degrees of severity. So on the chart there, you can see that actually this person, noise sensitivity is a real key thing, and their anxiety because of that can be really key. But actually, as they go down, there is no issue as far as their body language. There is no issue with eye contact. There is no issue in this way, that way. So actually, it is an individual thing that goes on. And we have to think about that in reasonable adjustments, because actually we can't just make personal reasonable adjustments, without really thinking about how that person comes. It can't be a reasonable adjustment for everybody who's autistic. If we're going to make a reasonable adjustment, let's make it for everybody. And then if everybody can take hold of that and use that and be part of that reasonable adjustment. We talk about autism with exceptional talents, and absolutely, again, within our workplaces, within our friendship groups, etc., let's understand. If someone does turn around and talk about, well, I think I might be, the question from you is, well, the first thing to do is listen, actively listen. Talk to them. Tell me about it. You might be the only person that person's ever confided in. So listen, let them talk to you. But also think about, well, let's talk about what you do like. What are your strengths? What is it that you enjoy doing? How can we maximize those strengths and those skills within our environment so that you continue to feel a highly included and motivated member of our team? As opposed to on the other branch, where actually we see huge attrition within the neurodivergent condition. We see a lot of silent quitting within the neurodivergent community. We see many who don't have a job, and that is still a massive problem. Okay, ADHD. Now, I'm not going to get you to have a look at all but this is, we'll certainly give you access to the slides, but this is about, we often call ADHD a iceberg. What you see at the top, I'm ADHD, I'm on the 97th percentile. You have 3 types. So again, it's a neurodevelopmental condition, but we have 3 types. We have inattentive, difficult to sustain the attention, forgetfulness, disorganization, but without that hyperactivity. And this is why ADHD is often missed. And, the research, and only the research, tells us that often this is missed within the female population, because actually females seem to be so much better at masking, at being able to control, being able to assimilate, to mirror, to be part of a group. But actually that internalization of what's going on, that internalization of having to work double, triple, quadruple times harder than those around them to fit in is really hard. Hyperactive, impulsive, excessive movement, fidgeting, impulse actions, me. But we can overtalk, we can talk too much, overshare. We can find ourselves in difficult situations, very impulsive. Financial instability, not getting on and getting chores done, tasks done, jobs done, that we don't see as a priority in our brains, that we don't see that we need to do, but actually we do need to do them. And this can often cause many issues, lifelong issues, for many of those with ADHD. Combined type symptoms of both. So, ADHD, it is real. It is there. Yes, we're talking about it a lot. But we are starting to see, certainly since COVID, when everything stopped and parents started to understand their children, understand the fidgeting, understand what's going on. We certainly did. And for Henry, our youngest, actually, he was really having trouble as far as going back into the school world and trying then to focus and trying to refocus back. And actually they got us into school, they said about this, and, for him, he was worried because he kept having to stay in lunchtime because he hadn't completed his homework right, because actually what he was taking down on the board wasn't correct, because actually he had been fidgeting, he'd been doing this, or his teacher was just saying, stop fidgeting, sit still, do this, do that all day. So Henry, great. By the end of the day, he learned how not to fidget. Everybody else learned about ancient Greece. And that is the problem in our classrooms right now. That is the problem with perceived naughty children, the class clowns, the jokers, etc. But they then come through into work. I made sure actually that I went in and talked to them about it, and I said, well, can I give them a fidget spinner or something like that? And they said, no. Other parents won't like it. This won't be good. That won't be. So not to do anything. I went home. I ordered 32 fidget spinners. I wrapped them all up in birthday paper, and I went in and said it was Henry's birthday a few weeks ago, and he wanted to give everybody a present. So they couldn't really then say no. But what happened? And the teachers got on board with me. But what happened was after 2 weeks, 50% of those fidget spinners had gone. They're, down the back of sofas. Older siblings had them. They were in the playground, in their desk. 2 weeks after that, 90% of those fidget spinners were gone, and they weren't there, and they weren't here, and nobody was, those children just weren't using them. 2 months later, Henry and 2 of his friends still had their fidget spinners. They were still using them, and they were accessing everything that went on in the class. The teachers are looking at me going, well, what have you done? What's magic about a fidget spinner? Do you remember what I said about meltdown? Remember what I said about anchor points? That is an anchor point. I use all sorts. Whatever's on my desk is my fidget. But what it does is it brings my attention back. It brings my attention back to what I'm doing now. And that I can use. That is my anchor point. And then I can focus. Okay. Dyslexia. Have that piece of paper and a pen ready, because we're gonna have some fun now. Dyslexia, common learning difficulty. It involves issues with reading and writing, and it is that formulation of letters, that formulation of words. What's often been missed as far as dyslexia is it's also to do with listening and hearing phonics, hearing the way words are built, the way that words are, how words are constructed. It is a neurobiological condition, and actually, you know, we see it in or word recognition, decoding abilities, etc. But it is not in no way related to intelligence. It is related to empathy. It is related to creativity, to innovation. It is to problem solving. You think if in your mind's view, you've had to piece together words, sentences, thoughts, information, etc. all of your life, you become proficient at that. You become proficient at filling in the gaps. You become proficient at storytelling. You become proficient at using that skill to your advantage. And that again is where we can use that to our advantage within the workplace. Right. And the types of visual. This is how it may be seen, what you see on screen. Right, get that piece of paper and a pen. So I'm going to annoy you at the same time as having some fun. So on the next page, there are 8 questions. Each one of those questions may not appear as you have seen it before. I do not want you to give me the answers, but what I want you to do is rewrite out the 8 questions. And we may, you know, make it slightly difficult, even more difficult as we go. Hey, Grant, we were practicing this earlier, so we're going to have some fun. So I'm going to do that. So are you ready? So again, the instruction is, please rewrite the questions out. And if you can do that, and then we'll have a look at it. But you've got 60 seconds to do it. Okay. And here we go. Right, come on everybody. 10 seconds. We're back in the 90s, Grant. This is what's going on. Here we go. So 24, 23, oh my god, 22, 21, 19. Going down. The music's getting up. Are you able? Keep going, keep going. Try not to put the answers in the chat. Piece of paper. Stop coming. Here we go. We've got 2, 1. You're done. There we go. Oh, how was that? How do you feel? How was that for everybody? See,
I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy that at all, Rich.
No,
no, it was unsuccessful.
Cleo, love it. Vicky, oh my gosh. Oh yes, Alexandra, stressful. A lot going on. Why do we do this? Why did I just subject you to 60 seconds of that? Well, not for all of you. Some of you have done really well. Because what we think about is that actually this is what it's like sat in the shoes of someone who may be dyslexic. Not everybody, but sometimes, and some people. And actually what you're having to do is somebody gives you information. Maybe this is the start of an interview. And first of all, you've got to work out what it says. The pressure, people talking around you, everybody else is getting it. That stress, that time. I need to get this done. I need to do this. pulses are raising, heartbeats racing, beads of sweat are appearing. And actually, that is just 60 seconds. What if that was 30 minutes? What if that was an hour in a meeting? What if that was 2 hours? What if that was 8 hours? What if that was 5 days a week? What if that was your working life? When we talk about burnout, we don't talk about burnout that they're burnt out from this job. Burnout comes from life. Burnout comes from having to do this in every single step, to work 5 times harder just to keep up with the norm. Because actually what we're doing is making that more difficult for those with a neurodivergent condition. We're not helping to construct answers. We're not helping to be and did not, and to actually see and give people an advantage. If we're in a meeting, let's give the meeting notes beforehand. If we've got a presentation, let's give the presentation to them beforehand. If there's a report you need to read, let's give it to somebody beforehand. Let's not just walk into a meeting and slap down a big old report and say, right, if we can just quickly read this and then we'll all talk about it, because I won't be talking. Think about it when we're putting meetings together. What's the information? What's the meeting about? Why are we going there? What do we need from individuals? How, you know, what is the value people are bringing? And quite honestly, if you're going to set a meeting and I add no value to it, I'm going to be really kind, but I'm going to say I'm not coming. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go, because actually I need to get on with everything else. Right. So for those that need the answers, you're all sat there. You're not even listening to me anymore. You just want the answers. Oh, I nearly started it off again then. Oh, no, too far. There you go. With my very favourite of pictures. That's actually me, not now, obviously. So yeah, the simplest of things: name, age, date of birth, full address, mother's maiden name, name of first pet. You know, all of these things will give me your password. So, you know, please, please send them to me on a stamped addressed envelope. No, I don't want your password. Keep them to yourself. But anybody that's written that down, keep it, think about it. And next time you're wanting to give somebody instructions, next time you're thinking about something with lots of data, thinking about being in an environment where people having to write, people having to copy, people having to look on screen, think about how those in the room may be having a challenge with digesting information. Remember, it's not intellect. It's just the way that we process information within our brains, our neurodivergent brains. And that comes very nicely into, this is one of my most favorite of pictures, because simply, you know, for a first election, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. But that's brilliant if you're a monkey. It's brilliant if you're the bird. You're out there, you're having a great time. You can see the world. It's
Oh dear. Can you guys hear me? Has Rich frozen? Oh no. Oh, good stuff. You can hear me. Oh dear. I know that Rich was having difficulty with his IT just before we joined. Good luck finishing that one off. Someone was saying in the chat. I'm sure Richard is going to rejoin in a second. Can you guys still see me though? Yeah, you can still hear me and see me. I'm just going to text Rich to rejoin now. Good, we'll see how we get on. Here he comes.
Oh,
Hi, Rich.
hello. Can you still see me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear.
Oh, sorry, everybody. We've been having little micro power cuts this morning, as I said earlier, but we are good to go, so we'll be fine. I'm back, and I just need you to tell me that you can see my screen.
Success.
Wonderful. Right, let's keep going. I was talking about elephants. Literally the elephant in the room. There we go. How perfect. How perfect was that? So the elephant gets me up there. I'm looking and I'm seeing it, and it's brilliant and just amazing. And what do you mean your legs are So what we've got to think is that everybody needs to be able to, within their lives, everybody needs to be assessed on what they can do. If we tell everybody to meet one simple glass ceiling, we're never, ever going to be able to get there. How do we create new inclusive workplace? We build a new inclusive environment that's not just accommodating differences, but about evaluating and celebrating the unique strengths and perspectives that neurodiverse individuals bring to the table. It's about creating spaces where everyone can thrive. My gosh, we talk about the hidden 20% in our organizations. We talk about actually those that have not been asked, well, what can you do? Those that are just about clinging on because of challenges within the workplace, never ask, well, what is it that we can do? Let's start to prioritize active listening. Let's think about recruiting the right people for the job. Let's change the way that we do our recruitment. Let's make sure that actually we're being inclusive, that we're giving questions out front. And everybody goes, no, we can't do that. It's not fair. People will cheat. People will do this. No. If we give out 5, 6 questions beforehand that we're going to ask, treat it as an agenda for the meeting. Treat it that these are the cornerstones of the interview. Now, this is what we want you to come prepared with, but then the skill is in the interviewer being able to probe afterwards. Like, that's amazing. Let's probe what we're doing. Let's probe how we're doing it. Be kind. Create champions. Create people that are like me, that talk about this stuff. Because the more we talk about it, the better it is. Let's celebrate our differences. Like, come on. You know, it's just so easy to say that we are all different. Every single one of us is different. We all come with different perspectives, different ideas, different lived experience, different. Well, let's celebrate that and talk about it and share our experiences and where you can become an ally. Reasonable adjustments. You know, have a box of fidget toys. Remember the story about Henry? Just have a box of fidget toys. I put Lego and all sorts on desks when I'm doing meetings. I've had everybody from firefighters to union leaders to university students, all sitting there building the most elaborate of toys and things out of what I've put on the desk. But do you know what? Every single one of them is part of it. Every single one of them has their attention on what we're talking about. Think about a designated desk. I know it may sound out, but actually, I love my controlled environment when I don't have power. But actually, by going into an office, everything is uncontrolled, absolutely everything. So when we're trying to get people back to work, which we need to do, not full time, but we need that social interaction. We need people together. We need to foster those ideas, and we need those water cooler moments, absolutely. But think about how we can do that, how we can bring people in. And don't just bring people back in to sit in a corner with headphones on and then go home again, because they're not being productive. Think about why people are coming back into the office. Think about, you know, I call it a big block of cheese day, which came from West Wing, which is an ideas day, an innovation day. Get reasons for people to come. Allow spaces that are not the toilet. How many hours have I spent in toilets trying to regulate my emotions? Actually have a quiet space and enforce that as a quiet space, because you'll see again that people can sit. They can add more, they can contribute more, their productivity will go up. Understand body traits, understand we don't all come at the world in the same way. We talked about headphones, which are a great thing. Buddy systems. Whenever I'm working in an office, I have a great big sign on my back that says, if you disturb me, I will talk to you for an hour, which means absolutely nobody comes near me because they know I will talk to them. And that will be then they'll never get away from my clutches. But actually, I'm just making my own reasonable adjustments for who I am, because I am accountable and responsible for me. I am accountable and responsible for my behavior. I'm accountable and responsible for my neurodivergent condition. What I ask is, will you help it be better? Will you help me be more psychologically safe within the working environment? Will you help me do that by listening, by understanding, by knowing what's going on, by thinking about how you give me instruction, by how you help, by thinking about those sensory needs, by the smells, by the sounds, by the lights, etc. And talk to me. Just talk and listen And between us, we can find the most incredible ways to move forward, both individually, but as a team. So try some of these. What, why, who, when, impact. So next time you write an email, next time you put a meeting in, think about what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Who do I need? When do I need it by? And the impact. If you give me that, I'm yours. If you give me that, I'm going to work so hard. But actually, if you sit and go, yeah, next week, a few weeks, whenever, yeah, a few days, yeah, I just need that. But I need to ask you some questions about it. Oh, yeah, just, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You've known me forever. It'll be all right. Yeah, just ask somebody else. Do this. It's in a filing cabinet. No, if you're going to give me instruction, I need it. I need to talk to you about it to make sure I understand exactly what it is I need to do. And with that, I'll go and do it. Think about overwhelm. Overwhelm's caused by high demand and low clarity. I need it now, need it now, need it now, need it now. But I'm not going to give you information. Actually, let's turn that around. Let's turn around overwhelm. Let's make sure that we're giving people high clarity of information and low demand. Let's break it down. Let's break big problems down and put them into smaller areas. Let's make sure everybody can understand when we need it, what we need, why, who, when, impact. Plan meetings, plan the agenda. Tell me what you need from me. Be clear as to the value I bring. And actually, this should be for everybody, not just us that are neurodivergent. Focus on strengths, we talked a lot about. Just think about that. What is the criteria that we're assessing all of our people on? Is it exactly the same? Because if it is, that's where the problem is. It's not with the people. I can promise you it's with the way that we're evaluating them. Be clear and specific when giving instructions. Take time to answer. Why? Why do we do this? All the research is there. Deloitte, 30% more productive. Harvard Business Review, 30% more productive if we actually create neuro-inclusive environments. You know, JP Chase, autistic employees are 50% more productive after matching them to projects they were passionate. Their productivity rose to a staggering 140% of those non-autistic employees. I know personally, if I'm not interested in this, I'm sorry, you're not going to get my best work. But if you've understood me, if you've understood my strengths, if you've understood what I can do for you, I'm going to give you 100%. I'm going to keep giving you 100% because I enjoy it. I've at last found the job after 30 years that I've craved and loved, but I never knew this was the job. I was never given the opportunity to be me. So now this is me. And thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I do free taster sessions. If you're in a business and you want to hear this again, you want me to come into your business and do it, absolutely. Neurodiversityworkshops.co.uk is my website. And you know, maybe this is a bit of self-promotion. Forgive me for that. But I often come out of these sessions and people say, at last, somebody is seen. At last, I've actually felt like somebody understands me in this workplace. And that is just the best part of my job. I'd love to take some questions.
Real. Well, listen, thanks so much, Rich. Lovely, passionate presentation. Fabulous. Thank you so much. There's a few great questions that have popped up. I'm just going to drop them in for you at the moment now. One of them actually landed just after the IT fell out, which was quite good, Simon. It says, what do you do to help with fight or flight?
Fight or flight is hard. And this is, you know, for me, and this is just a personal assessment. So a lot of what I say is very personal to me and my lived experience. You know, and that again says that all of us perceive life and perceive the way that we come at neurodivergence very different at times. But that fight or flight is, you know, I've often seen it in my impulsive nature to quit a job, my impulsive nature to walk out of a situation, my impulsive nature where I've said the wrong thing. And I've stayed and I've fought where actually I should have just stopped. And we see that in meetings. We see it in meetings where that person who maybe is neurodivergent and they are climbing, you know, they've not been listened to, or they perceive they've not been listened to, or it's not fair. We have this daily at the moment with my son. Everything's not fair. He's on a mission to be fair about everything. But actually that starts to go up. And too often in the past, people have sat back and gone, this is going to be fun. Get the popcorn, they're about to explode. As opposed to whoever's in that meeting being the ally to say, oh, should we just take 2 minutes? Should we just, I just need to open the door. It's very hot in here. Oh, I need a glass of water. Given that time and identifying that someone is in a point of maybe fight, or they need to leave. And actually, for that is a really important way to ally, to give that person the space to say, come back to me, come back down. Because that fight or flight can manifest in so many different ways. But that runaway, I've run away from many jobs, too many jobs, because I never understood it. I didn't understand the politics. I didn't understand why I was being treated differently. I didn't understand why they didn't understand. So it's a really interesting. Any more?
Yeah. Another question popped up. It says, just a quick question they're asking here. How did you go about getting diagnosed yourself? This person says they've got a number of family members and friends that are saying that they show signs of autism, and they were wondering if you went through your GP or some other way that you managed to get diagnosed yourself.
Diagnosis is a massive question at the moment. It's huge on many people's lips. And, you know, I am diagnosed ADHD. I am not diagnosed autistic, although I am, and, you know, my mother had me tested. It's very much about right now, we're being called into schools as far as, I think the child may be ADHD, I think the child may be this. I've got letters on my desk for Henry right now. The problem that we've got is CAMS, which is the Young People's Mental Health Service, is just completely abstract. We're talking in some areas 3 to 4 years before you can be diagnosed. A child can be diagnosed on the NHS. In some areas of the country, it could be up to 10 years before an adult can be assessed. Now, the problem with all of that is certainly in the education system, you know, the school will only react if there is a formal diagnosis in place. So if there's a 4-year gap, that child in those 4 years may not be given the support and help they need. It's changing in a lot of places, and schools are realizing that actually they're going to have to change. They're going to have to do things, you know, because actually for those that have masked for so long, now it's often really serious about mental health that's coming out for young people as well, starting going into puberty, going into adolescence. For adults, it's a slightly different story, more positive story. Although you can't get, certainly on the NHS, you can't get diagnosed with many conditions after you're into adulthood. But, you know, ADHD, dyslexia, you can, but there is, you know, it can be, as I said, up to about 10 years. You can go the private route, that's about 18 months at the moment. It can cost about £2,000. The thing to remember, really remember, as far as a diagnosis, you need a piece of paper for diagnosis if you want to go on medication. And that on its own is a massive journey, and it's a massive change. And I don't advocate either way. We've had positive and negative experiences in our family. But the thing that within the working structure under the Disability Act and under the Equalities Act, you're afforded the same reasonable adjustments, the same protection under the law, whether you identify as neurodivergent or whether you have a piece of paper saying. And that's a really key thing. Your workplace cannot turn around to you and say, you must give me a diagnosis, you must give me a piece of paper. That is unlawful. So you will be and can be afforded the same reasonable adjustments under the law within your workplace if you identify as. And the interesting stat we've got coming at the moment is Gen Z, 12 to 27-year-olds, 50% are identifying as neurodivergent in some way. Is it that? We don't think so. We still think it's that 20% prevalence, but we do believe that we're having false positives as far as screen time, scrolling, dopamine addiction, etc., which is manifesting sometimes in irritability, in impulsivity, in fidgeting and not sitting still because of that continuous 15-second need. And when that's taken away, we see that their brain type goes back to normal. So diagnosis, is it worth it? It's a very personal thing, but right now it's difficult to do. I can certainly take this offline with whoever's asked that and give you some more information about that. But there are some great places that you can go. ADHD Neurodiversity Charity, headed by Tony Lloyd, is incredible. And their chairperson is 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗶𝗃, who is also absolutely fantastic. Reach out to those two. They can definitely help.
Fab, thank you. Just one more question. It seems to be a great one to kind of close on. It said, and whether or not you can do this, but we'll see. It said, if you had just one tip to give workplaces, what would it be to help neurodiverse employees feel more comfortable?
I'll tell one of my stories. I've got some time. I'll tell my story. Is there's a couple in the webinar chat as well. I'll get to those as well if I can. But we talked about Tourette's. Some of you may remember 𝗪𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗍𝗂 on stage at Glastonbury. 𝗪𝗂𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗃 has Tourette's. 𝗪𝗂𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗃 was halfway through a step and suddenly was overcome by a Tourette's paralysis, which meant he couldn't move, he couldn't talk, couldn't do anything, couldn't walk. They couldn't move him from the stage. He was just in this paralyzed state. And as the crowd started to realize what was going on, 80,000 people started to sing his songs back to him. Now that was amazing. It was amazing for him. It was an amazing musical thing that went. But it wasn't the most amazing. The most amazing thing that happened that day and the next day was that every single news channel, every single paper, everywhere was talking about Tourette's. We're talking about neurodiversity. We're talking about this subject. And actually, a friend of mine who has Tourette's, who had spent 9 weeks in hospital across his life because he'd been beaten up so many times through saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, swearing in 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 and somebody who had always given him grief in his hometown, came up to him and said, "I'm really sorry, man. I never knew. I watched this thing on BBC Breakfast this morning. I never knew that was you. And I'm sorry." It said it changed his world. So the one thing that you can do, talk about it. Just talk about it. Go. The next person you speak to after this webinar, go when you get home. Talk. That is what you need to do, because the more we talk about any difficult subject, the more normal that subject.
Yeah. Wonderful. Brill, there's a few more questions that I don't think we simply have time to answer. We'll try to answer those and get back to you when we can, and we'll send out that email to do that. Before you escape, everybody, if you haven't already done so, complete the feedback poll, and also thank you so much, everybody, for your wonderful interaction and sharing your thoughts and ideas and reflections. It's been wonderful to see that come up. So thank you for sharing your vulnerability for some of us. So that was lovely. And finally, a huge thank you to Rich, who was running around a little bit stressed out before because of the power cut, and he's celebrating a small win. So well done, Rich, for getting that sorted. And thank you so much for sharing your wonderful insights and knowledge today and bringing us all up to scratch a little bit more. So it's been very thought-provoking, not just for me, but for many that have attended today. So thank you, Rich. If I can ask you to stop sharing your screen so that we can see a big picture of Rich's face.
One that only a mother would love, eh?
And if you wanted to reach out to Rich, you know where to do that. He's on LinkedIn, and those neurodiverse workshops and poster sessions, people can contact you directly for that, can they, Rich?
Absolutely.
Outside of that, yeah, thank you, Rich, and thank you, everybody. Please feel free to come up for air, get a bit of movement medicine, hydrate, take a big deep breath, and get ready for a fun and productive day, everybody. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you all at the next session. And just before we go, just one other question, because I always love asking this question. Rich, if you've got time, what does optimal well-being mean to you?
We did talk about this yesterday, and I thought about it overnight. And it's just making optimal well-being. Number one is participating in neuroinclusion, but being part of that. To be an ally is to be part of change and part of positive change, And if those around you feel that positive change so that they themselves can come at life better, those that can come at life happier and more secure, then actually, wow, if we can do that, we can do anything.
Wonderful. Brilliant. What a lovely, it's my favorite question to ask. Massive question, but one of my favorites. So Rich, again, thank you so much for your time and energy and sharing all of that with us today. Thank you, everybody else. Please feel free to jump off the call and search up the recording and share with your friends as well. And contact Rich if you need a little bit more insight or more knowledge. Thanks, everybody. I'll let you all escape.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rich.